Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some storms which are going to be impacting the northern plains. This area of the country that has been dealing with a lot of drought recently will finally get their chance at a little bit of rainfall. For tomorrow we have that enhanced risk in parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana. So we already have a fairly decent shot of seeing some rather severe weather. We'll be going over all of that and more in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end to get all the information in today's video. Here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have some heat advisories in parts of southern and central Texas, as well as parts of Minnesota right around Minneapolis. We also have a few more heat advisories around Philadelphia, and then we have over southeastern New England another patch of heat advisories. We have red flag warnings in effect in that pink shade for parts of the west, as well as some excessive heat warnings in parts of southern Arizona and southern California. We have high wind watches in this color right here for Wyoming and Montana. We have high wind warnings in parts of Nevada and California, and then we have wind advisories which are scattered throughout the western U.S. We also have a few flood watches and flash flood warnings, where we even saw a bunch of reports over 5 to 7 inches or even more within this area between Arkansas and Alabama. So we had a really heavy rainfall, especially in areas in eastern Arkansas, western Mississippi. So that area right there currently has some flood watches and some flash flood warnings in place. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 115 degrees Fahrenheit in Rio Grande Village, Texas. We had a low temperature in Bodie State Park, California, where they got down to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall report was in Arkansas. They got 9.25 inches of rain, and that was in Richland Township in southeastern Arkansas. So that was really a quite active day in that area. We saw a ton of rainfall, unfortunately. So these areas really don't need any more rainfall. They're already above normal for precipitation, so really an unfortunate situation right there. If we look at what the current Storm Prediction Center page looks like, you can see that we have an enhanced risk which covers parts of western North Dakota, western South Dakota, and eastern Montana, with a larger area of slight risk in that yellow, which is a 2 out of 5 on the scale. And that covers much of the northern plains through the Dakotas, Nebraska, into Wyoming, and even into parts of northern and eastern Montana. We have a marginal risk, which also covers a little bit of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. They actually upgraded this area. This is the day 2 outlook, by the way. So this is for Thursday or tomorrow, and this is when we're expecting the height of these storms. We're not expecting too many storms tonight. Maybe just a few scattered storms into northern Minnesota and northeastern North Dakota, as well as some parts of south central Canada. Other than that, not many storms are expected for today. Here's the day 2 outlook for the tornado risk, and you can see that we have a 2% chance in the green and a 5% chance in the brown, which it doesn't sound like a fairly high chance, but when they're putting up that brown 5% risk, you at least want to be paying decent attention to it, because there is definitely a risk of tornadoes. I believe yesterday we only had a 2% chance of tornadoes, and in South Dakota we had at least one reported tornado. They actually might have had a couple more tornadoes through South Dakota and North Dakota yesterday. So even if you're just in that 2% shade or the 5% shade, you want to pay attention to this, because there is that chance that we get these storms. And yesterday it overperformed a little bit, and again we saw a couple tornadoes. I believe there was at least one confirmed. There might have actually been a couple more. If we look at the hail outlook, you can see it's pretty much over that same exact area. We have a 15% chance in the yellow, a 30% chance in that red, and then in this hatched region, in the black hatched region, we can see that we have the chance, I believe, of seeing 2-inch diameter hail or greater. So this is where we're really upping the ante for the chances of seeing some hail, and some of that hail again could be damaging, especially when you're dealing with hail of that size, up to maybe 2 inches according to the Storm Prediction Center. If we look at the day 2 wind outlook, you can see that we have the shot of seeing some winds gusting fairly high. We have that 30% chance in parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana, and then we have that significant hatched region, which is in that black area right there. So we do have a rather high chance of seeing wind damage and hail within these areas, and I would say a low to moderate risk of seeing a couple tornadoes today, or actually that would be for tomorrow. So here would be the simulated radar, and this is just going to be timing out these storms for you guys. You can see that by later tonight, or actually tomorrow night, we're dealing with just a few scattered storms. So this would be around 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, and you can see that we have still a few scattered storms here and there, but it's really nothing too noteworthy or too significant within these areas. If we go one frame further out, you can see that these storms continue to strengthen over these areas, and you're going to see that this line right here in particular is just going to continue to expand, and it'll continue to expand, especially to the south and to the east, and this is going to be the main direction that it heads in. And this is good news because we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but these areas, especially in western North Dakota and northern South Dakota, this is the area that we're dealing with fairly high levels of drought. So this is going to be the same area that's expecting 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. New models have actually upped the rainfall in these areas, so that's definitely a good sign. These areas definitely need some rainfall. They're a few inches below normal for this time of year, and it's really going to affect the growing season if they don't get any rain anytime soon. So this would be by later on tomorrow. You can see this would be around 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. Moving this along a little bit more, this would be by 9 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Central Time, and you can see that line of storms grows and widens pretty much. It's not going to be as severe as when it just starts out. So if you're looking at the bulk risk of tornadoes, it's going to be when it's just starting out within this core right here. So this is going to be the area that I would say tornadoes are most likely. As it starts to expand, it's also going to have to expend that energy over a wider area. So instead of having that energy all centered over one specific area, it's now kind of having to spread that out over maybe 50 to 100 miles. So it's going to be the further it spreads out, the weaker the storm will be, but of course the more widespread it will get and the more people it'll affect. So moving this on a little bit more, you can see that by 12 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 a.m. Central Time, it's starting to move out now into the central Dakotas, now even moving into parts of Nebraska. So you can see a little tail on there, and then we have that main line of storms further to the north, moving through the early morning hours on Friday. This is around 4 in the morning Central Time on Friday, and you can see that mainly just rainfall and some scattered thunderstorms on the eastern front of this, but it's mostly rainfall. And luckily on the back end, we actually have a little bit more rainfall. This is going to be really good news because instead of getting all that rainfall within a short time period, this batch of rain right behind it is going to allow you a couple hours to dry out a little bit so that you're not dealing with any flooding, and then you're going to deal with maybe another quarter inch to half an inch of rain that falls at a steady rate, nothing that's going to cause any flash flooding. So this is actually a fairly good setup here if you want to remove some of the drought issues. So at least we're not getting it all at once. We're not getting a couple inches within just a matter of a couple hours. We're actually spreading this out over about 12 to 18 hours. So that's definitely good news, and that's going to help deal with any flash flooding issues, which it looks like we're not going to be dealing with too many flash flooding concerns. And then you can see that by Friday morning, around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, we're dealing with these storms heading further to the east, and they are starting to die out as they're heading further and further to the east. So if we look at the total rainfall, this is going to be really good because as you can see on this next frame here, this is the drought monitor. So I'm going to circle in the area that is under an extreme drought. It's within this area right here. So this area right here in western and central North Dakota, northern South Dakota, and eastern Montana has that extreme drought, and even the highest stage of drought, an exceptional drought, in that dark red shade for north central North Dakota. And if we overlay, and I'll go back here, if we overlay the rainfall, you can see that the highest amounts of rainfall are expected within that relatively same area as that. So you can see that we're expecting 2 to even 4 inches in a few spots of rainfall over the next about 24 to 48 hours. And that's really good news for these areas because they are about 4 to 6 inches below normal. maybe a little bit less than that. So that should help out and get you at least closer to average, maybe even tilt a few areas here a little bit above normal. Unfortunately, if you live down in parts of South Dakota, you're not going to be seeing as much rainfall, but even if you're just in that blue shade or the dark green, that's where you're nearing half an inch of rainfall. So that's still a decent amount, and it's definitely nothing to complain about, considering that we haven't seen much rainfall in quite a while in these areas. So any rainfall at all is really going to help out these areas get over the drought issues. And then again, looking at the drought monitor again, you can see that the bulk of the concern is in North Dakota and Montana. So further to the north, areas further to the south into Nebraska, Kansas, eastern Colorado, areas further than that to the south don't have much concern. So it's really this area that's expecting the most rainfall and also has the highest drought issues. So that's a good scenario there, that is kind of overlaying on top of each other. So the area that has the highest drought issues is also getting the most rainfall out of this event. If you look at the Cape numbers, you can see that we're expecting a lot of energy and instability as we get to Thursday evening. So we have Cape values, which this is really high for this part of the country. Further to the south into Nebraska and Kansas, those Cape values are getting up near 5,000, even up to 5,500 in a few of these areas. These are really, really high. You would expect this in the southern plains and the southeast, not the northern plains and the Midwest. So this is definitely uncharacteristic of this area. And then if we look up to the area that's actually expecting the severe weather, we have Cape values that are between about 2,000 and near up to 4,000 in a few of those areas as well. So these are really high Cape values compared to what's normal in this area. If we look at the high temperatures on Thursday, you can see that these are also going to be definitely warm enough to support some thunderstorms. It's going to be up into the 90s for much of this area right here, into parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, even into parts of Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska. So these are really high temperatures for this area. And that's what these storms are really going to fuel off of. We're dealing with upper 90s, even a few low hundreds in these areas. So that's really, really warm, and that should help out these storms develop a little bit better. If we look at the dew points, you can see that we have dew points that are getting up into the upper 60s and even the low 70s in a few of these areas, especially into areas like South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, and also Wisconsin. So not so much into North Dakota, but for North Dakota, it's going to be more of just a plain rain, as well as eastern Montana. Then you get further to the east and south into southern North Dakota and South Dakota as well. That's when it's going to turn more convective in nature, just because the ingredients will be a little bit more conducive for that. And then if we look at the precipitable water, this is showing you how much water is available in the atmosphere at any one given point in time. And you can see that we have values all above 1 inch within this entire area, and even above an inch and a quarter in some of these areas. So that's rather good. We're even getting up above an inch and a half, or even close to 2 inches in some of these areas. So that's definitely high enough to support some storms, and everything is really pointing to a decent day in terms of rainfall, especially in those areas that have drought issues, and definitely some thunderstorms are possible with this event. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.